Hey everyone, it's me. Welcome back to the middle of everything. Today you'll notice that we're sitting in the middle of my yard. Well, you'll notice if you're watching. If you're just listening, you might notice the sounds of birds chirping, doors slamming, and other outside noises, some cars driving by. Um anyway, so on today's episode, we'll be chatting about something that can be extremely challenging for people, and for others, it can feel like just an adventure. I hope you all got to listen to the episode with my good friend Antonio. Today's episode was sort of inspired by his journey. It got me thinking a lot about change, how I deal with it, how people in general deal with it, and as a person who thrives in chaos and change, I thought my words could help encourage other people to not be afraid of change. And I'm not saying I'm perfect or have a perfect method for dealing with change, but I do find it mildly annoying and sometimes scary as well. But overall, every time something has changed in my life, it has usually been good. It's not really bad. I mean, most of the time there is some change that is bad, but that's just circumstances. You can't really help um, when something goes wrong or when something bad happens. But a lot of times, when bad things happen, the change that comes from it can be really, really good. Um, and the change that was really good for me was really, really good for me. It drove me further into who I am today and where I am now, and it will ultimately end up getting me to my end goal, right? Like, what is my end game? And I can't get there without change. So, the first big change in my life, I would say, is probably when I went from living with both of my parents to only living with my dad. I was 9 or 10. I barely even really remember it. I wasn't traumatized by it. I don't remember being upset or mad. I just remember always still feeling loved and being taken care of. So, while that is a big change, I think my parents did a really great job at helping continue to support me and still be there in every way for me. The next big change came some years later when my dad and Dara bought the big house on the corner and we turned into essentially the Brady Bunch. Yeah, I had to share a room. I didn't have the woods or my yard or pool anymore, but I had my family with me. I had two people in the house to take care of me and love me. I still saw my mom whenever I wanted to and could spend as much time with her as I wanted. The change wasn't bad. In fifth grade, a girl named Katie moved to Highland and we were in the same class. We became so close and best friends. Well, when I moved into the house that my dad and Dar bought, Katie was right up the street, a big hill, but I could still walk up it. And that wasn't really super common where I grew up. Everything was kind of spread out. Um, but that allowed us to spend so much time together over the summers, hanging out. We were able to walk home from school when we were in middle school, and we spent so much time together, and so that change ended up being really good. And I think that maybe this was all setting me up for changes I would make as an adult. I graduated high school when I was 17. I'm younger for my class. And I went away to college just a few months later. So I graduated in June of 2004 and I was 17. And then in August of 2004, I was moving away to go to college. And I wasn't scared of that at all. I wasn't afraid to move. I wasn't afraid to be on my own. My parents all taught me how to be independent, how to take care of myself, and most importantly, how to stick up for myself and, not let anyone take advantage of me or roll over me, whatever it may be. But I really wasn't scared of that change. I wasn't afraid to be on my own. And I'm not sure where that comes from. I'm not sure if, um, all of these things that I've gone through as an adolescent and then as a teenager with the little changes that I had set me up. I don't know if my parents just instilled like a lot of confidence in me to be able to thrive on my own, and that kind of just made it easier. I don't know if it's because I had such a big support system around me with like, my softball team and whatnot being there for me. So, um, yeah, I think it was really good that I had my softball team at college too, because that really did help with the transition. And then, that was also a good change, going away to college. Not only did I meet my best friend, Deanna, we were in each other's weddings. We've celebrated and support each other through hard times and great times. And Deanna, if you are listening, I love you and I need to see you soon. But that's the thing about change is sometimes it can feel bad when it's happening. I mean, this felt really good, obviously. Like, I accomplished something. I got into a good school. I I got on the softball team. Um, and I met my best friend there. So that change ended up being really good. And I ended up getting my bachelor's degree, which apparently in this day and age, nobody really cares what your bachelor's degree is in, just as long as you have one. And having that helped me get, to where I am today. So, and I actually think going home from college after I graduated was a worse change than going to college. That set me up. I endured a lot of bad things and pain um, when I came home from college. But yeah, so anyway, I've had some relationships that sucked, and even though they sucked, that change was extremely hard to handle when um, we broke up. So both of them I lived with. So when we broke up, one of them I lost my dog. In both, I lost the place I was living. But in both instances, I moved on. After that second one, I moved out into an apartment of my own by myself with my cat for the first time. I had never lived solo. I lived in an apartment above my mom at one point, and I was by myself for a while, but my mom and my stepdad were downstairs. So we were technically still in the same like house, like the same dwelling, but um yeah, I was alone upstairs, but my parents were downstairs. And then me and my cat moved into a studio apartment by ourselves, and this was a first for me. I didn't have anyone close to me that was there. um but I did have like some friends that lived up the street from me and whatnot. So yeah, it was isolating to say the least, but it really ended up being the best move for me because I found my independence again. I met my husband Mike, and I found Sarah. You know, it's the real me that was suppressed for so long under the weight of insecure men who couldn't handle being with a strong woman. And that change was hard, but it was really, really good. And I worked at United Healthcare for 9 years. And again, that was a change. I went from only ever working retail to working in a corporate job. Some upsides to that: I made more money, I had insurance, and I never had to work the weekends. Downside: after a long time there, even though I was a top performer, the politics just became too much. My mental health suffered immensely. But I also met Amanda, who I swear is my soulmate and a friend. I met Mike, my husband, and so many other people. Um, the list could go on and on for days of the great people that I met there. But at the end of 9 years, I had to make a choice to change. I was nervous, but one of my friends recommended a training job at a credit union. And I wasn't scared of changing industries. I wasn't scared of learning a new job. I was actually more afraid of like putting myself out there and being rejected. So, but I am awesome. So obviously I got the job. And then eventually I got tired of training. I was talking for 8 hours a day. I had to constantly be on. But I really did love working there. I loved the place as a whole, but there really wasn't like an opportunity beyond that for me to grow at that point in time. And I needed to move on from training. I needed to do something different. So one night I was just scrolling on the internet, doom scrolling, and I found a position at the place I work now. Um, well, that was great. I did end up getting this position. I had to learn something new. I pretty much had like a baseline of what I needed to know, and then I had to learn like all the new systems, some new rules that I didn't really 100% know. Oh, look at that light. And I got really good at the position really quickly. I learned everything I needed to know within just a couple of months. And when I was working there, I had a boss who, she was okay, but like we really butted heads. She didn't really want to give up a lot of her control and the reins. It almost kind of felt like she was intimidated by how fast I was learning and the knowledge I was gaining. And she had a hard time communicating things with other people, not just me, but people at the bank as a whole. And that really took a toll on us. But she ended up leaving like literally 4 months after I got that job. And the only thing I could do was step up to the plate. In my mind, there was no other choice but to step up and take on that higher position. The CEO came to me and he's like, "How do you feel about it?" And I was like, I know all the systems. I can get us through. I can do what I need to do. They really supported me in that change. And I think that's a huge part of why I've dealt with change so well, is because I've always had a really good support system, whether that was, through my job or my family, my friends. Obviously, now I have Mike to support me through change. But, that one was really challenging. And then now, we're in the middle of a merger with this bank, and I'm not scared of that change. In fact, I've actually really loved everything so far. It's been challenging because I'm having to learn to give up some of my responsibility that I had in my position. I did end up taking a step down. I went from being an officer to an analyst. I'm still doing relatively exactly the same stuff that I was doing, but I don't have decision making power in my department anymore. that has been a little bit hard, but it's also been kind of nice to just do the work and not have to make decisions. And I think I will want to eventually be back there. Like, I know I'll want more at some point, and I'm confident that my managers will support me in that. And I'm really looking forward to growing in this position and creating like new processes and enhancing procedures. And that's one of the things I really love to do. So I love figuring out puzzles and how to make things better. And I really think that that's why I do well with change, is because I like to make things better. I like to, grow and make things more efficient if there's the opportunity to do that. Um, so, you know, I think my contributions, and even though I'm still learning, I think that they will be impactful now and in the future. And again, it was a change, wasn't a bad change. It's a little bit difficult, but I think overall the end result is going to be something really good. And I honestly think for me, staying the same is scarier than change, because, like, how will I ever evolve to my greatest form if nothing changes? And again, like, how will anyone ever grow if we all stay in homeostasis, right? Like, yeah, there's things that we want to stay the same. We don't want to constantly be moving. Like, I did move 7 or 8 times in the last 16 years, and that was a lot. But with each change, like, my apartment got better. We bought a house now. This was my last move for a very long time. But I think if I could give you any advice about change, it's to just accept it for what it is. Like, it's going to be hard, and you have to let yourself deal with the hard parts of that change. But I think you have to accept that with that change, your next chapter is going to be really great. And change will be what you make it. So you can accept change, and you can grow with that change. You can push yourself to grow and to get better, or you can resist the change, never grow, and stay where you're at. And for some people, that's okay. For some people, they don't want to change. They want to live in what they're in, and they're accepting of that, and they're happy there. Um, but those are sometimes the people who don't deal with change very well, and they resist the change, and the change feels scarier and it feels harder for them. But once they start to accept the change, it really starts to take hold of their life, and it can push them a little bit out of their comfort zone, and it can push them to evolve and to be greater and to learn something new and get to a point where they've accepted this change organically, um, and it's made them better, and they might not realize it. But if you're steering the wagon in the direction you want to go, if you want to make better yourself better, you have the power to grow a change or to remain the same without it. And change isn't bad, it's just different. So I would love to hear about you and your challenges with change. Send me a message. And if you have any advice for people going through change, just send it over, or you can comment on the post about this episode. So thanks for sitting in the middle of change and in the middle of my beautiful yard with me. Love you all. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.